The galaxy had always been a place of wonder and danger. There were many powerful empires, each with its own secrets, but none as mysterious as the one that was quietly creeping into the edge of known space. It began with a whisper, just a rumor, passed from one ship to another, from one station to the next. But soon, the whispers grew louder. A new force in the galaxy, they said. Something no one has seen before. A new warship, they claimed. One so powerful that it could change everything. The question was, who was behind it? At first, the galaxy's superpowers laughed it off. After all, they had seen it all. The Xanthi Empire had their massive dreadnoughts, capable of taking down entire fleets with a single strike. The Vridi Federation boasted fleets of agile, faster ships that could outmaneuver anything in their path. Even the ancient Kolar Union had technology from centuries past, things so advanced that they were nearly untouchable. But this new ship, it wasn't from any of them. And that fact alone made it dangerous. The whispers spoke of a human warship. Humanity had always been seen as small, a tiny, insignificant species compared to the giants that ruled the stars. The other species, the empires, often underestimated humanity, seeing them as primitive. Their technology was nowhere near as advanced as the others. They didn't have the resources or the power to challenge the galactic superpowers. But the rumors had started to suggest something different, something terrifying. The first sign of trouble. The first sign came when a Zorathian scout ship, on a routine mission near the borders of the human colonies, disappeared without a trace. They had been in the area for days, surveying the space around a human-controlled planet. Then nothing. No warning, no distress signal, just silence. The Zorathian scouts were highly trained and equipped with the best technology their empire had to offer. Yet they had been taken out without even a chance to fight back. The Zorathians sent another ship to investigate, but it too vanished. And then another and another. Soon, the Zorathians realized something was happening that they couldn't explain. One by one, their ships were disappearing, and the only thing that seemed to link them together was that they were all near the human colonies. The Zorathians weren't the only ones who noticed. The Xanthi Empire, always looking for an advantage, dispatched one of their most powerful warships to investigate. The Xanthi Reaver, a massive vessel with enough firepower to destroy entire planets, arrived near the human territories. The ship was armed with the latest technology, and its crew was one of the most skilled in the galaxy. They too found nothing, not a single trace of the missing ships. And then, without warning, the Xanthi Reaver disappeared as well. The message had been clear. Humanity was no longer the weak species they had once believed. Something had changed. The War Council, back on their home planets, the leaders of the galaxy's superpowers gathered. The mysterious disappearances had rattled them all. The Zorathians, Xanth, and even the Kolar Union knew that something dangerous was out there, something they couldn't understand. But what could it be? "I told you humans were dangerous," said High Commander Joran of the Zorathian Empire. His voice was low and cold. He had always looked down on humanity, considering them a small threat at best. But now his eyes were filled with suspicion and fear. "They have no weapons like ours," said Chancellor Elia of the Xanthi Empire. "Their technology is primitive. How could they have built something that can defeat our best ships so easily?" The Kolar representative, an old and wise being named Vivan, leaned forward. His voice was soft, but it carried a weight that made everyone listen. "It is not their technology that makes them dangerous. It is their will. The humans will fight for survival, no matter the cost. And they have something we have not seen before." "What is that?" asked Commander Joran. Yvonne's eyes narrowed. "Courage, determination, and perhaps something even more powerful than that. But whatever it is, we need to find out before it is too late." The room fell silent. No one knew what Ivan meant, but everyone understood the fear in his voice. The humans had always been seen as small and insignificant, but now something had changed. They were no longer weak, and the galaxy's superpowers were terrified of what was coming. A human mystery. On Earth, a small group of military leaders and scientists had been working on something no one else knew about. Hidden in deep space, in a remote part of the human-controlled systems, a project had been underway for years. The Colossus. The Colossus was not just a ship. It was a weapon, something humanity had never shown to the rest of the galaxy. The warship had been under development for a long time, hidden away from prying eyes. But now, as the rumors of disappearing ships spread, it was ready to be revealed. The Colossus was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It was massive, bigger than anything the Zorathians or the Xanthi could imagine. Its weapons were designed to disable fleets, not destroy them. It wasn't about power. It was about strategy. The Colossus was built for one thing: to prove that humanity was not a species to be ignored. The ship's design was revolutionary. It was equipped with technology that seemed to blur the line between organic and mechanical, something that made it appear almost alive. But its most terrifying feature was its stealth. The ship could disappear from any sensors, appearing only when it wanted to. For years, only a select few knew about the Colossus, and even fewer understood the technology behind it. But now, it was no longer a secret. The galaxy's superpowers were about to learn just what humanity had been hiding. The first strike. The Colossus was sent to confront the Zorathians. After weeks of silence, the warship appeared on their radar. At first, the Zorathians thought it was a mistake. No way could this be the human ship they had heard rumors about. It was too big, too advanced. It didn't make sense. But when the Colossus fired, they knew it was real. The Zorathian fleet tried to respond, but their ships were no match. The Colossus's weapons disabled the Zorathian ships before they could even raise their shields. In a matter of hours, the mighty Zorathian fleet was completely incapacitated, and the Colossus left without a single shot fired at it. The Zorathians had no idea what had just happened. They couldn't track the ship, couldn't fight it. All they knew was that they had been defeated by something they couldn't understand. The galaxy reacts. The news of the Colossus's attack spread like wildfire. The Zorathians were shaken, their empire in chaos. The Xanthi were in denial. They had always believed they were the strongest, but now they had to face the truth. Humanity had a weapon more powerful than anything they had ever encountered. But it wasn't just the superpowers that were affected. Smaller factions and independent ships began to take notice. Some saw the Colossus as a sign of humanity's strength and chose to ally with them. Others feared it and began to gather their forces to prepare for what they thought might be an invasion. And all the while, the Colossus remained in the shadows, watching, waiting for the galaxy to realize what humanity was capable of. The question. As the galaxy's superpowers scrambled to make sense of the situation, one question lingered in the air. What was humanity planning next? What did the Colossus mean for the future of the galaxy? In the deep silence of space, the answer was yet to come, but everyone knew one thing for sure. The balance of power had shifted, and humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. The events of the past few days had left the galaxy's superpowers in a state of confusion and fear. The Colossus, humanity's secret weapon, had struck swiftly and decisively, leaving the mighty Zorathian fleet crippled and helpless. The news spread fast across the stars, and whispers of a new force in the galaxy began to dominate conversations in every corner of the universe. It wasn't just the Zorathians who were terrified. The Xanthi Empire, the Vridi Federation, and the Kolar Union. Everyone was suddenly forced to reckon with a power they had long dismissed. Humanity, once seen as weak and insignificant, had just proven that they were capable of something far greater than anyone had imagined. The Colossus was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It didn't rely on brute strength or sheer firepower. Instead, it was a master of stealth, precision, and overwhelming surprise. Its weapon systems were advanced beyond the understanding of even the most advanced species. But it wasn't just about the ship. The humans who piloted it were unlike any other species. They were driven by something deep within them, an unshakable resolve to fight, survive, and protect their own at all costs. They had always fought with a kind of desperation, a hunger to prove that they were more than what others thought of them. But now, that fight was evolving. The galaxy's superpowers had thought they could control the flow of the universe. They believed that their military might, their technology, and their ancient histories would keep them at the top. But in one swift move, humanity had flipped the script. Across the galaxy, military councils were being held. Commanders and leaders sat in dimly lit rooms, their minds racing as they tried to comprehend what had just happened. The Zorathians, once the most feared empire in the galaxy, now found themselves powerless in the face of a force they couldn't understand. Their fleets had been crippled in moments, and their pride had been shattered. Commander Joran, the high-ranking officer of the Zorathian forces, paced back and forth in the war room, his mind consumed with frustration and fear. He had always believed that his empire's advanced technology and superior firepower were enough to maintain control, but now it seemed as though everything he knew was a lie. How could they do this? He muttered to himself. How could a species so far beneath us possess such power? The Xanthi Empire, too, was in disarray. Their flagship, the Xanthi Reaver, had been one of the most feared ships in the galaxy, boasting cutting-edge weaponry and shields that could repel almost anything. But it had been taken out with terrifying ease. Admiral Ilya, the Xanthi commander, sat in her office, staring out the window at the stars. She had always prided herself on the might of the Xanth fleet, but now she was unsure of anything. How had the humans managed to build such a weapon? It didn't make sense. She knew the human species was resourceful, but this was beyond what anyone could have expected. The galaxy was changing, and she was struggling to adapt. "We must find out who's behind this," she said aloud, her voice tinged with both fear and determination. "If we don't, we could all be doomed." The Kolar Union was no different. Their ancient technology was second to none, and their ships were equipped with weapons that had been refined over centuries. Yet when they had sent their ships to investigate the human warship, they had returned with nothing to report. Only the cold emptiness of space. There had been no sign of battle, no debris, no distress signals. The Kolar knew the humans had a secret, and whatever it was powerful enough to challenge everything they had ever known. Yvonne, the Kolar representative, gathered with his council in a room dimly lit by the glow of distant stars. His once calm and wise demeanor had been replaced by a quiet intensity. The Colossus had shown them that humanity was capable of something they had never believed possible. "We must learn more," Yvonne said, his voice steady yet filled with concern. "The humans have changed. We must understand why." Meanwhile, humanity's leaders were watching the chaos unfold with a strange sense of calm. They had known for a long time that the galaxy was coming for them, that their enemies would never stop until humanity was wiped out. But they also knew that they were far from powerless. For years, the Colossus had been under development, a project that only a few knew about. It was a weapon born from desperation, from the desire to survive in a galaxy that had no place for them. The truth was, humanity had always been underestimated. They had never been given the resources or the respect they deserved, but they had something far more valuable: determination. The humans knew that if they were ever going to make a stand, it had to be now. The Colossus was only the beginning. There were more secrets, more ships, and more weapons ready to be unleashed. The Colossus had only been the beginning, but it was enough to send ripples of fear and confusion across the galaxy. Humanity, once dismissed as weak and insignificant, had now proven to be a force to be reckoned with. The superpowers that once ruled the stars were scrambling, trying to understand what had happened and how to respond. But the humans were not waiting for them to catch up. The warship's success had given them something more powerful than technology. It had given them confidence, and with that confidence, they were ready to push forward into the unknown. The Zorathian Empire, still reeling from the Colossus's attack, was desperate to regroup. Commander Joran, a proud and seasoned leader, paced the war room, his thoughts a whirlwind of uncertainty. He had faced countless enemies, but this was different. The humans were not supposed to be capable of such advanced technology. They were supposed to be weak, primitive, an easy target. Yet the Colossus had crushed their fleets without hesitation. How could that be? Joran couldn't shake the thought. We underestimated them, he muttered, slamming his fist onto the table in frustration. We should have known that humanity would find a way to survive. But this is something else. Joran's anger was only matched by his fear. His fleet had been taken out in a matter of hours, and the survivors spoke of something that they couldn't even describe. An overwhelming presence, something far more powerful than their own warships. His empire had always prided itself on its strength, but now they were facing an unknown enemy. An enemy they didn't know how to fight. We need to find the source of their power, he said, turning to his officers. We must know who or what is behind this human warship. Meanwhile, the Xanthi Empire was in a similar state of disarray. Admiral Aelia, the commander of the Xanthi Reaver, sat alone in her quarters, staring out into the void of space. The Colossus had destroyed their flagship with such precision that it had seemed almost effortless. The Xanthi Empire had always been proud of their technological advancements, their immense fleets, and their superiority over lesser species. But now, all of that meant nothing. They had been humiliated. Their flagship, the symbol of their power, had been reduced to nothing. Who are they? Admiral Aelia whispered to herself, her voice barely audible. How did they build something like this? Her mind raced with questions, but none of them had answers. She had always believed that the Xanthi Empire was untouchable, but humanity had proven her wrong. For the first time in her life, she felt vulnerable. The Colossus was a game changer, and the humans were no longer the insignificant species they had once been. I'll find out, she said, her resolve hardening. I will find out who or what is behind this weapon, and we will take them down. On the other side of the galaxy, the Kolar Union was also on high alert. The Kolar had always been known for their ancient and unmatched technology, but the Colossus had shown them that even the most advanced civilizations could be vulnerable. Yvonne, the Kolar representative, was a man who had lived through centuries of warfare and had seen the rise and fall of empires. But this was different. He had heard of humanity before, heard of their wars, their struggles, their survival. But he had never believed they were capable of something like this. This is no ordinary ship, he muttered as he gazed at the star maps in front of him. This is something far more dangerous. The Kolar Union had always been a master of defense, but the Colossus was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was stealthy, efficient, and brutal. Its weapon systems were far beyond anything the Kolar had ever seen. Yvonne knew that his people could not afford to underestimate humanity any longer. They had to find a way to neutralize the threat before it grew too powerful. We must investigate, Yvonne said, turning to his council. We need to know how they did this, and we need to do it fast. The galaxy is changing, and if we do not act, we will be left behind. Back on Earth, the humans were not unaware of the growing fear in the galaxy. But they were not afraid. If anything, they were more determined than ever to press forward. The Colossus had proven that humanity could rise above the expectations of their enemies. But there was more to this victory than just the ship. There was something deeper at play, something that would soon be revealed to the galaxy in ways no one could imagine. Humanity's leaders had known that the Colossus would send a message. They had known that it would draw the attention of the galaxy's superpowers. But they had also known that this was just the beginning. The Colossus had been built for a reason. It wasn't just about survival, it was about taking control of their own destiny. The galaxy had always believed that humanity was weak, but the humans had proven that they could outsmart, outfight, and outlast any challenge thrown their way. And now, humanity was preparing to take the next step. The Colossus was not the only weapon they had. There were others, others waiting in the shadows, ready to be unleashed. As the superpowers of the galaxy scrambled to regroup and prepare for the next move, humanity's plans were already in motion. They had learned from their past. They had learned that in a galaxy ruled by fear and power, the only way to survive was to make sure that no one ever underestimated them again. The Colossus was just the start. And as the galaxy braced for what was to come, humanity was ready to show them just how far they were willing to go. The galaxy trembled with the knowledge that humanity, the species once written off as insignificant, was now in possession of a weapon that defied all expectations. The Colossus was not just a warship, it was a symbol of something far larger. And with every passing moment, the fear among the galaxy's superpowers grew stronger. They had believed that their empires would reign forever, but now they found themselves facing an unknown enemy, one that was determined to carve out its place among the stars. Commander Joran of the Zorathian Empire had called for an emergency council to discuss the growing threat. His fleet, once seen as the most powerful in the galaxy, had been decimated by a single human warship. The Colossus had caught them off guard, and now they were left scrambling for answers. His face was grim as he addressed his officers, a mixture of anger and disbelief in his voice. "How could we have been so blind?" he demanded. "The humans, they've been playing the long game, hiding in the shadows, and now they have the power to crush us all. This is no accident." His chief strategist, Call, spoke up, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We underestimated them, Commander. For too long, we've viewed humanity as weak, insignificant, but they have proven otherwise. We cannot afford to make that mistake again." She paused, looking around the room at the nervous faces of the other officers. "We need to know where this weapon came from. Who is behind it? We need answers, and we need them now." Joran clenched his fists in frustration, but he knew she was right. They couldn't just wait and hope the threat would go away. The Colossus wasn't just a ship, it was a message. Humanity was not only capable of incredible technological feats, but they were also willing to fight for their place in the universe. And that, Joran knew, was something they had to take seriously. "Send out scouts," he ordered, his voice cold with determination. "I want to know where that ship came from, and I want to know who's behind it. If we don't act now, we'll be the ones crushed under humanity's heel." Meanwhile, Admiral Elia of the Xanthi Empire was also grappling with the reality of humanity's power. Her fleet had been devastated in the Colossus's wake, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something far darker was at play. The Colossus wasn't just a weapon, it was part of a larger strategy. She stared at the holo map of the galaxy, her mind racing with possibilities. What are they planning? She muttered to herself. This isn't just about one warship, it's about something much bigger. The Xanthi Empire had always been known for its ability to adapt, to stay one step ahead of its enemies. But this time, they were on the back foot. Humanity had caught them by surprise, and they didn't know how to react. For the first time in years, Admiral Elia felt vulnerable. "We must find out what they're hiding," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We must get ahead of them before they can strike again." The Color Union, too, was reeling from the implications of the Colossus's appearance. Yvonne, the Color representative, stood at the helm of the Reaver, staring out into the void of space. His mind was consumed with the same question that plagued the others. How had the humans managed to build something so powerful? The Color were known for their advanced technology, but they had never dreamed of something like the Colossus. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, and that frightened Yvonne more than he was willing to admit. "The humans are a paradox," Yvonne muttered to himself. "They were supposed to be weak, primitive, yet they've done something we couldn't even imagine." He turned to his chief scientist, Alan, who had been studying the remains of the Colossus. "Do you have any idea how they did it?" he asked, his voice tight with impatience. Alan shook his head. "Nothing we've seen in their history or technology could account for a ship like this. It's beyond anything the humans should be capable of." Yvonne's eyes narrowed. Then how do we stop it? We can't afford to wait for them to make the next move. Alan hesitated before replying. We might have to look beyond their technology. Maybe. Maybe they're tapping into something else. Something older. Something none of us understand yet. The idea hung in the air, a mystery that none of them could yet comprehend. If humanity had unlocked some secret power, some ancient force that the galaxy had long forgotten, it could change everything. On Earth, the humans were far from idle. The Colossus was a key part of their strategy, but it was only the beginning. Humanity had already begun to lay the groundwork for their next move. The Warship was a statement, a declaration that they were not to be underestimated. But the true force of humanity's power lay in the alliances they were forging across the galaxy. No longer were they isolated on their small blue planet. They were reaching out, making deals, forming alliances, and preparing for something far greater than any one ship. The Colossus had shaken the galaxy to its core, but it had also united the humans in a way that no one had ever anticipated. They had shown that they could fight back, that they could stand tall in the face of overwhelming odds. And now, they were ready to make their next move. The superpowers of the galaxy were distracted, uncertain, scrambling to understand what had happened. And that, humanity knew, was their advantage. The Colossus had drawn the attention of the galaxy, but humanity's true weapon was still hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As the galaxy's superpowers worked feverishly to respond to the threat, they remained blind to the fact that humanity was already several steps ahead. They were not just playing the game, they were changing the rules. Heat tension in the galaxy had reached a boiling point. The Colossus had struck fear into the hearts of the galaxy's superpowers. But it was only the beginning. The leaders of the Zorathian Empire, the Xanthi Empire, and the Kolar Union had all sent their fleets to monitor the human threat, but no one had yet discovered the true scale of humanity's ambitions. Behind the scenes, human leaders were quietly orchestrating their next move, and the Colossus was only a small piece of the grand design. On Earth, President Marcus Gray stood in a war room filled with high-ranking military officers and strategic advisors. The room was tense, every face focused on the holographic map before them. The Colossus had done its job. It had shown the galaxy that humanity was no longer a species to be dismissed. But that wasn't enough. Humanity had a plan that would reshape the galaxy, a plan that no one else could see coming. Prepare the next phase, President Gray ordered, his voice steady but commanding. The Colossus has made the superpowers react, but now we need to make them panic. General Ava Khan, one of the leaders of the human military forces, stepped forward. We've been in contact with some of the smaller, less powerful species in the galaxy. They're frightened by the superpowers, but they see humanity as an opportunity for protection. We can use that to our advantage. President Gray nodded. Exactly. We'll build alliances with them, give them the strength they need to stand up against the superpowers. The more allies we gather, the stronger we become. He glanced at the map again, his eyes narrowing. But we need to move quickly. The superpowers won't stay distracted for long. Elsewhere, the galaxy's superpowers were beginning to make their own preparations. The Zorathians had sent their best warships to the edge of human space, searching for any sign of the Colossus's origins. But all they found was an empty void. Nothing. The ship had vanished after the devastating attack. Commander Joran's frustration was palpable as he paced back and forth on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fang. We're looking for a needle in a haystack, Joran muttered, his eyes fixed on the star charts. There's nothing here. The humans have vanished into the shadows. Call, ever the strategist, remained calm. They've learned to hide their tracks, Commander. But we'll find them. We have to. Joran turned to her, his eyes burning with resolve. We must. If we don't, the entire galaxy will fall under their control. Meanwhile, Admiral Elia of the Xanthi Empire was not far behind. Her fleet had suffered losses at the hands of the Colossus, but she had a reputation for resilience. She was determined to understand how humanity had come into possession of such a powerful weapon, and how they could exploit it. Admiral Elia was studying the data gathered from their encounters with the Colossus when her chief engineer, Kale, approached her. "Admiral, we've been running the scans again, and we've come to a conclusion." Elia's gaze hardened. "And what conclusion is that?" Kale hesitated before continuing. "We've never encountered anything like this before. The Colossus, it's powered by something completely unknown to us. We can't even begin to reverse engineer it. It's not just technology. It's something else." Elia's eyes narrowed. "Something else? What do you mean?" Kale looked uncertain. "I don't know. It's like it taps into an energy source we've never even imagined. Something far older and more powerful than anything in our current understanding." A deep silence fell over the room as the weight of Cal's words settled in. If humanity had unlocked a source of power beyond the reach of the galaxy's superpowers, then the balance of power was about to shift in ways that no one could predict. In the Kolar Union, Livon was equally troubled. Despite their advanced technology, the Kolar had been caught off guard by humanity's ingenuity. The Colossus was an enigma, and Yvonne knew that if humanity had truly harnessed something beyond their understanding, they could very well turn the tide of the entire galaxy in their favor. Sitting in his private chamber aboard the Reaver, Yvonne contacted Alan once again. "Tell me what you've found," he demanded, his voice tight with impatience. Alan hesitated for a moment before speaking. "There's something in the ship's power core, a residual energy field that doesn't belong to any known source. It's almost as if it's being drawn from another dimension, a place beyond our reality." Yvonne felt a chill run down his spine. "Another dimension? Are you saying the Colossus is tapping into something supernatural?" "I don't know how to explain it, but yes," Alan replied. "We've never seen anything like it before. It could be a game changer, or it could destroy us all." Yvonne stood up, his mind racing. If what Alan was saying was true, then humanity wasn't just using technology. They had access to something ancient, something far more powerful than anything the galaxy's superpowers could have imagined. As the galaxy's leaders scrambled to find answers, humanity was quietly preparing for their next move. They had already laid the groundwork for an uprising, a quiet rebellion that would shift the balance of power in their favor. And with each passing day, their influence spread further, unnoticed by those who thought themselves untouchable. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity's rise was no accident. It had been a long time coming, and the Colossus was only the beginning. The galaxy was shifting, and the tremors of change could be felt everywhere. In the quiet corners of the universe, whispers about humanity's rise began to echo. The superpowers, Zorathians, Xanthi, Kolar, had underestimated humans, dismissing them as primitive. But now, they faced a reckoning. The Colossus was merely the spark that ignited the fire, and humanity had far more to reveal than anyone realized. On Earth, President Marcus Gray stood in a new command center deep underground, surrounded by the best and brightest military minds humanity had ever produced. The air was thick with urgency. The first phase had worked. The Colossus had terrified the galaxy, drawing the attention of the galaxy's superpowers. But that was just the start. Now, humanity's next move would take things to a whole new level. General Ava Khan paced back and forth. "We've sent out the calls. Our alliances are growing faster than we expected. Smaller species are lining up to join us, all afraid of what the superpowers could do if we don't act quickly." President Gray nodded. "Good. We'll use their fear to our advantage. But we must be careful. If we're too obvious, the superpowers will come for us, and we'll be forced into war." "I agree," Khan said. "That's why we need to be subtle. The Colossus might be our strongest weapon, but we can't just rely on one ship. We've started developing a fleet, something that will make the galaxy's superpowers question their power." A quiet tension filled the room as they continued to strategize. Every move had to be calculated, every step designed to make the superpowers doubt their superiority. Humanity was playing a dangerous game, but if they succeeded, they would turn the tide of history in their favor. Meanwhile, the superpowers were scrambling, desperately trying to figure out how to neutralize humanity's growing threat. The Zorathians had begun construction on a fleet of warships, determined to wipe out the human threat before it could spread. They believed that their size and strength were enough to crush any resistance. But they were wrong. They didn't realize that humanity wasn't just a new player in the galaxy. They were something entirely different. And the Colossus was only the first of many surprises. Commander Joran of the Zorathians stood on the bridge of the Iron Fang, his sharp eyes scanning the stars. They had tracked humanity's fleet movements, but there was one ship, the Colossus, that had vanished without a trace. It was as if it had melted into thin air. No matter how much they searched, they couldn't find it. "We've lost track of it," Joran muttered to Call, his frustration building. "The humans are getting better at hiding their tracks. They've learned from their mistakes." Call nodded. "We're not the only ones looking for them. The Xanthi Empire is moving in on their territory as well. The Kolar Union is sending ships too. If we combine our forces, we'll find the humans and end this." But even as they spoke, the galaxy's superpowers were unaware that humanity had already anticipated their moves. President Gray had already predicted the alliances the superpowers would form and had secretly begun forging his own, even stronger alliances with other civilizations. Humanity had a long history of adapting to challenges, and now they were prepared for the coming storm. The Xanthi Empire's Admiral Elia had her own plan. Though their fleet had suffered losses to the Colossus, they had not given up. They believed the answer to defeating humanity lay in uncovering the secret behind the Colossus' energy source. Elia and her team of scientists had spent countless hours studying the data, trying to reverse engineer the strange power that fueled the ship. They hadn't made much progress, but they were closer than ever. On the bridge of the Reaver, Admiral Elia stood over the holographic table, her eyes scanning the data projections. She was quiet, deep in thought, when her chief engineer, Kale, spoke up. "Admiral, we've analyzed every scrap of information. There's something strange going on with the Colossus. It's as if it's drawing energy from another source, a source we can't identify." Elia's eyes narrowed. "I know. I've seen it. But we need to understand what it is. If we can figure out how they're tapping into this energy, we can turn it to our advantage. We can destroy them before they become too powerful." Kale hesitated. "Admiral, there's something else I've discovered. The Colossus isn't just a ship. It's a weapon. A weapon designed to completely disrupt everything we know about energy, physics, and even time. I can't explain it fully, but the energy it generates, it bends the very fabric of space itself." Elia's face turned pale. "Bend space? Are you telling me it's using something beyond our understanding?" "I don't know what it is, Admiral. But whatever it is, it's not from this galaxy. It's something ancient." Meanwhile, on the outskirts of human-controlled space, a smaller fleet of human ships quietly moved forward. These ships were not the Colossus, but they carried the same spirit, the same unyielding drive that had led humanity to take a stand against the galaxy's most powerful forces. These ships were the beginning of something bigger. They were humanity's secret weapon in the making. The galaxy's superpowers may have been scrambling to find a solution, but humanity wasn't just reacting. They were planning. They were building. And in the coming months, the galaxy would learn the full extent of what humanity was capable of. President Gray had one final message to the leaders of the galaxy, a message that would soon spread across every corner of the universe. The message was simple but chilling. "We are not your servants. We are not your prey. And you will soon learn that we are not to be underestimated." And with that, the countdown began. The final chapter of humanity's rise was upon them. The superpowers, once confident in their dominance over the galaxy, now faced an enemy they could not fully understand. They had underestimated humanity at every turn, but now it was too late to turn back. President Marcus Gray stood at the helm of the Colossus, his hands resting on the smooth surface of the command console. He gazed out at the fleet that had gathered around him, a collection of ships representing every species that had aligned with humanity. Some were small and nimble, others large and imposing, but all shared one thing in common. They had chosen humanity's side. General Ava Khan stood beside him, her eyes scanning the displays showing the movement of the enemy fleets. The Zorethians, Xanth, and Kohler were all converging, unaware that the trap had already been set. "Their fleets are coming closer," Khan said, her voice calm but with a hint of excitement. "We've got them right where we want them." Gray nodded slowly, his expression grim. "We need to show them that this isn't just a fight for survival. This is about making the statement. Humanity's time has come." The Colossus wasn't just a warship. It was a symbol of everything humanity had endured and everything they had overcome. And now it would lead the charge. As the superpowers advanced toward human space, they believed they were on the verge of crushing the so-called human rebellion. But they were wrong. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Admiral Elia of the Xanthi Empire stood aboard her flagship, the Reaver, her hands clenched into fists as she watched the coordinates of the human fleet draw closer. The intelligence reports had said humanity's fleet was growing, but she had dismissed them as exaggerations. The Colossus had been terrifying, but the Xanthi were superior. She was sure of it. She turned to her officers. "Prepare the fleet. We will end this once and for all. No one will defy us again." But even as her words left her mouth, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She had heard rumors about the Colossus, how it could bend space and time, how it could unleash power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The thought gnawed at her. "Admiral," her chief officer said nervously, "we've detected a massive energy buildup near the human fleet. It's unlike anything we've seen before." Elia's eyes widened. "What kind of buildup?" "I don't know, Admiral, but it's huge." In the depths of the human fleet, President Gray and General Khan watched as the first shots were fired. It was time. The battle had begun. The Colossus unleashed its weaponry first, a barrage of energy blasts that lit up the void of space. The Zorethian and Xanth ships, unprepared for the intensity of the attack, were torn apart in an instant. The Colossus's cannons, powered by the mysterious energy humanity had harnessed, sent shockwaves through the battlefield. It wasn't just about destruction. It was about sending a message. As the superpowers scrambled to respond, the human fleet moved in formation. Smaller ships darted around the larger enemy vessels, using their speed and maneuverability to outflank them. The Zorethians and Kohler tried to retaliate, but the humans were ready. Every shot they fired, every maneuver they made, was calculated. It was as if they had studied the enemy's every move before the battle even began. And then the moment arrived, the moment that galaxy had feared. From the depths of the human fleet, the Titan emerged. It wasn't a warship, it was a fortress. Its hull was lined with layers of advanced shielding, and its weapon systems were so powerful they could obliterate entire fleets with a single shot. The Titan wasn't just a ship, it was humanity's ultimate weapon. The Superpowers commanders watched in horror as the Titan charged into the fray. Its weapons fired with precision, each shot taking out entire enemy fleets. The Kohler, who had once prided themselves on their advanced technology, could only watch as their ships were destroyed in moments. The Zorethians, powerful and imposing as they were, couldn't withstand the power of humanity's new weapon. Admiral Elia of the Xanthi Empire was one of the first to realize the truth. The battle had shifted. The superpowers were no longer in control. Humanity had not only survived, it had become the dominant force in the galaxy. As the Titan continued its onslaught, the remaining ships of the superpowers began to retreat. But it was too late. The damage had been done. Humanity had proven that it was not only capable of defending itself, it had the power to reshape the galaxy itself. Back on Earth, President Gray stood before a crowd of diplomats, allies and leaders from all across the galaxy. The battle was won, but the real work had just begun. "We have shown them that humanity is not to be underestimated," Gray said, his voice firm. "We are not just survivors. We are conquerors, and we will shape the future of this galaxy. No one can stand against us." The crowd erupted into applause, but Gray's eyes were already focused on the stars. This was just the beginning. The superpowers had fallen, but there were still challenges ahead. Humanity had risen from the ashes, and now it would lead the galaxy into a new era. And as the Colossus and the Titan stood as symbols of that new era, humanity's message was clear. They were no longer the underdogs. They were the force that would change the galaxy forever.